So on page 1 we saw 95 occurrences of the word salah in 2 derived forms. On this page we have the other remaining 2 derived forms. The first one on this page is the form 2, active participle, musallin, meaning the observers of the contact prayer, which occurs 3 times in the Quran, first mentioned at Surah 70, verse 22. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Except for the observers of the contact prayer, salah. The next verse in this surah defines them. They are those who were consistent towards their contact prayer. This was part of page 1. The next place it's mentioned is in Surah 74, verse 43. They will say, we were not among the observers of the salah, the contact prayer. This is the guilty talking. And the final place for this derived form is in Surah 107, verse 4. But we have to read the verse before, not to be confused for what is being said. And does not advocate the feeding of the poor. And woes to the observer of the contact prayer. These are some of the qualities of those who deny the Day of Judgment. Note that the observers of the contact prayer, musallilin, is mentioned again 3 times, which again is in perfect correlation with the fact that contact prayer is mentioned 3 times as well as its time frames. Reciting the book during your contact prayer is also said 3 times, and the contact prayer is plural, is referred to 3 times. More perfect connections will be presented soon, inshallah. Thus, we are now at the 99th occurrence of the last derived form of the word salah, contact prayer, which is a noun in the accusative case, musalla. It is only mentioned once in the Quran. It means contact prayer place or contact prayer position. The verse will define itself, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Surah Baqarah, verse 125. And as we made the house a focal point for mankind and a safe sanctuary. Now pay close attention, for God is now drawing our attention to the initiation of the Salat's first set with its positions. And take from Abraham's standing position as a contact prayer position, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. Before we continue the rest of this verse, I must prove to you that this is the correct translation of this part of the verse, because every translation of this is completely different from my translation. First and foremost, it says, and take from, وَاتَّخِذُوا. This is an action to do and to apply. Apply what? It says right after, Maqam Ibrahim, which is the picture on your left and another on your right. On your left is a side picture of the Maqam Ibrahim, and on the right is a top view. What you are looking at is the position of Prophet Abraham's 2 feet in a standing position. This is the Maqam Ibrahim, which is right in front of the Kaaba. Therefore, this can only be translated as, and take from Abraham's standing position, as musalla. Musalla now needs to be correctly defined. It is a noun in the accusative case, meaning the syntactical functions of the accusative consist of designating the immediate object of an action, the intended result, the goal of a motion, and the extent of an action. So in other words, the initiation of the physical motions of the salat, contact prayer, because musalla is connected to the word salat, contact prayer. Hence, contact prayer position, as it is consistent with the definition of the accusative case. This can now easily be understood as, and take from Abraham's standing position as a contact prayer position. Note, both feet are positioned directly in front of the Kaaba, at a distance of 40 feet or 12 meters. This is situated to the northeast side of the Kaaba. The Maqam Ibrahim is directly facing the Kaaba, as one should be if he or she is standing while establishing the Salat, because the sacred mosque, the Kaaba, is the correct Qibla. We will see this on page 7, inshallah. If you are wondering why God is putting our attention towards your feet position during Salat, it is because your feet is what keeps you balanced as you stand, especially your ankles. Just like the bases of a house. In Surah 20, verse 12, God called Moses directly and said, Indeed, I am your Lord, so remove your sandals. Indeed, you are in the holy valley of Tuwa. The first thing that God let us know as Prophet Moses entered was his feet. Another important note, God teaches us to purify ourselves before we establish or stand for Salat, which is the wudu. or ablution, which is mentioned clearly in Surah 5 verse 6 as 6 main steps. O you who believe, when you stand up for the Salat, contact prayer, first wash your faces and then your hands till the elbows, and wipe your heads and your feet till both ankles. This verse continues as it explains the exceptions. As you can see, the ablution or wudu ends by washing your feet to both of your ankles. The word both ankles in Arabic is ka'abain, which is in the dual tense, and it is only mentioned once in that form in the Quran, which is in this surah. This word is directly connected to the word Kaaba, God's sacred house. The Kaaba is only mentioned twice in the whole Quran, and in the same surah, Surah 5 verse 95 and verse 97. As I said earlier near the end of page 1 that God uses allegorical verses, here is one example. The Kaaba is God's allegorical house on earth, which is why it's called the ancient house in Surah 22 verse 33, the house and his house in this verse that we're analyzing, Surah Al-Baqarah 2 verse 125, sacred house in Surah 14 verse 37, sacred sanctuary, Surah 28 verse 57 and Surah 29 verse 67, the sacred mosque, which is in connection with the sacred house, Surah 5 verse 2, and the Kaaba as the sacred house in Surah 5 verse 97. Our bodies are also houses. In it are our cells and flesh and bones. It therefore houses our minds, hearts, and our souls, and God's Spirit. God resides in us. God tells us this in Surah 8 verse 24. God intervenes between a person and his heart. Surah 50 verse 16 says, and certainly we created the human, and we know what his soul or thoughts whispers to him. Nafs. We are closer to him than his jugular vein. In Surah 56 verse 85, we are closer to it, the soul, thoughts, self, which is the nafs, than you are, but you do not see. In Surah 6 verse 151 and Surah 17 verse 33 and Surah 25 verse 68 all say, and do not kill the soul, the nafs, which God made sacred except in the course of justice. Besides the fact that God blew his spirit into Adam, Surah 1529 and 38:72, that made him alive, which we are all children of Adam because we come from his posterity, God also says that he strengthens you or supports you with this spirit, similarly to how Prophet Jesus was strengthened or supported by the Holy Spirit after you pass this test. Surah 58 verse 22. You will not find people who believe in God and the last day befriending those who oppose God and his messenger, even if they were their fathers or their sons or their brothers or their tribe. For those he decrees faith within their hearts and supports or strengthens them with a spirit from him, and he admits them into gardens beneath which rivers flow, wherein they abide eternally. God is pleased with them and they are pleased with him. Those are the party of God. Most assuredly God's party indeed are the winners. Since God is within us and with us, this does not mean that we are gods or anything like that. So please do not get the wrong understanding from this. You will then fall into the category of idolatry, and God does not forgive idolatry. It says in Surah 4 verse 48 and 116. Now that you know this, you will have a better understanding of what is coming, so please keep that in mind, inshallah. Thus, God is commanding us in Surah 2 verse 125 to take from Abraham's standing position as a contact prayer position. Hence, this is the first position you take when you stand for Salat, contact prayer. This verse continues to instruct us what to do, as it says, and we made a testament with Abraham and Ismail that you both shall purify my house. In order to understand this, you both shall purify my house. You have to have passed the test that I mentioned in the first page, which we saw earlier about the salawat, contact prayers in plural, where God says, those who, when a disaster befalls them, they say, indeed, we belong to God, and indeed, to him we are returning. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Those are the ones the contact prayers are upon them from their Lord and mercy. Those are the guided ones. Therefore, we belong to God, and our bodies are our houses, as I explained earlier. So when God is saying, purify my house, this is also saying purify yourselves, which was explained earlier in Surah 5 verse 6, the ablution, wudu, which finishes at both of your ankles, ka'abain, which is connected to the word Kaaba, the house of God. from your head to your feet belongs to God, and before you contact Him, you must purify yourself. Subhanallah. Inshallah, you've understood, and if not, may God help you and guide you. Rewind if you need to. Now, as we continue this verse, Surah 2, verse 125, as it says, you both shall purify my house for the ta'ifs and the akifs and the kneelings to prostrations, ruk'i sujud. This will be fully explained through the Quran in page 3, what ta'ifs really mean, and akif, and the kneelings to prostrations. We have now completed the total of these 4 derived forms of the triliteral root, Sad Lam Waw, contact prayer, which occurs 99 times precisely in the Quran. However, God repeats the last verse above specifically one more time in the Quran in Surah 22, verse 26, with some modified important details, as it says the following. And as we appointed to Abraham the location of the house, do not associate anything with me, and purify my house for the ta'ifs and the standers and the kneelings to prostrations. This verse, ayah in Arabic, looks very similar to the ayah, the verse above, with the following changes. It does not say, and as we made the house a focal point for mankind and a safe sanctuary, nor does it say, and take from Abraham's standing position as a contact prayer position, and it replaces, and we made a testament with Abraham and Ismail that, with, and as we appointed to Abraham the location of the house. Note, Ismail is no longer mentioned, and now another additional information is being informed, that do not associate anything with me, but God repeats, and purify my house for the ta'ifs, which will be explained again in page 3, the standers, this has now been replaced from akif, which we'll see in page 3, and the kneelings to prostrations, ruk'i sujud, which we'll also see in page 3, inshallah. This is therefore explaining another set of physical motion, but slightly different, as there has been a physical modification. Note, Prophet Abraham is again the primary example. There are 18 specific prophets that God tells us to copy their guidance by God's will in Surah 6, verse 82 to 90. They are the following prophets: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Noah, David, Solomon, Job, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, Zechariah, John, Jesus, Elias, Ismail, Elisha, Jonah, and Lot, specifically in that order. And the 19th is Prophet Muhammad in the same Surah 6, verse 92. This will be thoroughly explained at page 8. Please be patient, inshallah. Please note that there is an interesting relationship between the 99 occurrences of the root word for Salat that we just saw, and the additional one, Surah 22, verse 26, that connects with Surah 2, verse 125, both describing physical motions and Prophet Abraham. There is thus a 99 and 1 additional relationship. As I've said before, that we humans cannot make any distinction among God's prophets, but God and His angels can, for they know what we do not know, as it says here in Surah 17, verse 55. And your Lord is the best knower of everyone in the heavens and the earth, and verily we have preferred some prophets over others, and we gave David the Psalms. Prophet David is among the 19 prophets to follow, as mentioned earlier, which will be explained at page 8 completely. The reason why I'm bringing him up is because of a famous situation in the Quran, which he was tested with. Here at the important remark, God informs us in Surah 38, verse 23, that 2 feuding brothers climbed over the wall of the mihrab, a contact prayer chamber, see Surah 3, verse 39, or on page 1, of Prophet David, as they were seeking his fair judgment in mixing 99 ewes with 1 ewe. An ewe is a female sheep. Another important remark is that they climbed over the wall is the word tasawwaru, which is connected to the word surah, meaning chapter. This word is only repeated once. Salat, contact prayer, occurs precisely 99 times as well in the Quran. The situation is occurring in Prophet David's mihrab, which is a contact prayer chamber, proven in Surah 3, verse 39 by Prophet Zechariah. And the whole point of the situation is to mix these 99 ewes, which are female sheeps, with an additional ewe, another female sheep. Since Prophet David's mistake was not to mix them, the 99 ewes with 1, I thus combine them. The 99 times Salat is mentioned in its derived form with Surah 22, verse 26. which connects with Surah 2, verse 125, both describing physical motions and Prophet Abraham. There is thus a 99 and 1 additional relationship, and Salat is also feminine, just like the 99 use, and the Arabic word for verses, ayah, is also feminine. Note, his judgment and his mistake was realized in Surah 38, verse 24, the next verse, and he demonstrated how to do the ruku' position while he was in the contact prayer chamber, mihrab, as it says. He has wronged you by demanding your ewe with his ewes. This verse continues on as he then realized that God was testing him. He then implored his Lord for forgiveness, fell down kneeling, and repented. This will be explained in detail later in page 3, inshallah. Now we are ready to go to page 3 for you to see the physical motions and the utterances of the Salat, contact prayer, from the Quran alone. But just before we go there are these 5 text boxes on the top left and right here. It starts from the left and ends towards the right. These verses are important to keep in mind. So it says, Surah 3 verse 95, say, God has proclaimed the truth. قُلْ صَدَقَ اللَّهُ فَاتَّبِعُوا مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Say, God has proclaimed the truth. You shall then follow Abraham's religion, monotheism, and he never was among the idol worshippers. Just below, the side picture of the Maqam Ibrahim says, indeed, the first house established for mankind was surely the one in Bakka, blessed and a guidance for the knowledgeable ones. Bakka is the ancient name for Mecca, and the reason it is written in the ancient name is so that you can connect it to the Old Testament in the book of Prophet David, the Psalms, as it confirms what we just read in Surah 3 verse 96. In the Psalms 84 verse 4 to 6, note the words blessed, your house, pilgrimage, and Bakka. Blessed are those who dwell in your house. They are ever praising you. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. As they pass through the valley of Bakka, they make it a place of springs. The autumn rains also cover it with pools. It ends here. It's important to connect the dots with Surah 17 verse 55 on its right. And finally here, at the top right says, Surah 3 verse 97, in it are signs with clear proofs, Abraham's standing position, Maqam Ibrahim, and whoever enters it is safe. The people owe it to God that they perform Hajj pilgrimage to the house, for who is able to find a way to it. And this verse continues here at the middle right. And whoever disbelieves, then indeed God does not even need the knowledgeable ones. This completes page 2, and now we can make the logical connections with the Quranic proofs alone to establish, perform, and observe the physical motions and what to say during the contact prayer through the Quran. And God knows best.